New Zealand has vowed to bolster defence spending as both Wellington and Canberra continue to monitor a Chinese naval flotilla in the Tasman Sea. It comes after China accused Australia of hyping its response to live fire drills, which the Chinese warships conducted on Friday and Saturday. Foreign Affairs reporter Stephen Jedgetts joins us now for more. Stephen, hello. So where is this Chinese task group at the moment, and do we know where it's going next?
According to Judith Collins, the Defence Minister for New Zealand, the task group is about 500 kilometres east of Tasmania in the middle of the Tasman Sea, so right there in the middle between Australia and New Zealand. Now, this of course follows two live fire drills that were conducted on Friday and Saturday last week, which disrupted commercial traffic. Where it's going next is not clear. The Minister for Defence, Judith Collins, as well as people in the Australian government, have made it pretty clear that they've requested more information and more transparency from the Chinese Navy and Chinese military on this, but no information is forthcoming. So there's speculation that it might loop up behind the east coast of New Zealand up towards the Pacific, but no one knows for sure exactly what it will do next or where it will go. And the real concerns that have been prompted by this are twofold. One, there's the question around just how much notice China provided before conducting these drills. Australia and New Zealand have both said they would have liked at least 24 or 48 hours notice, which wasn't given. And then, of course, there are the broader questions about the strategic implications of this. This is a demonstration of Chinese naval power in our region, in our neighbourhood, which is something that Australian and New Zealand strategic planners are still getting their heads around in some ways. Now, the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was asked about Australia's defence capabilities, asked if, for example, given the enormous firepower of these ships and Australia's vulnerability to them, whether Australia had moved quickly enough to get its missile defence systems in order. The Prime Minister defended the government's approach and said through the Defence Strategic Review, Australia was making the investments where they are needed. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
We had our defence review, which went through that looked at defence force posture, and if you look at where our investments are going, they're very much focused on naval investment as well. The Chief of the Defence Force, of course, Admiral David Johnson, is doing an extraordinary job, and we have considered as an island continent, common sense tells you that the Navy is pretty important for Australia.
So, Stephen, what's the response been to this flotilla in New Zealand?
Look, New Zealand's been a little bit more forceful and plain in its language here than the Australian government. Judith Collins, as well as other senior figures in the New Zealand government, have been pretty clear that this incident does reveal a new strategic landscape that's much more difficult and worrying for countries like Australia and New Zealand. She's flagged that there'll be substantial new defence spending increases coming up in the next budget. She's also, interestingly, speculated that one of the things China might be doing in the region is trying to get its hand on deep sea mining contracts and the critical minerals that are found buried in the seabed, something that's very much on New Zealand's mind at the moment, as Cook Islands has recently struck a deal with Beijing on that very subject. And Judith Collins was pretty stark that might be one of the things that's driving the activities of China in the region more broadly. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
Most conflict or most threats of conflict are actually based on resources, and you can also see that in Ukraine, what's happened there. So we have to be aware that we are in a situation, as I've said at the Munich Security Conference in the Indo-Pacific region, of sitting on an enormous treasury with a very small lock to protect it.
And all of that, of course, puts in pretty sharp relief the efforts Australia and New Zealand are both making to make sure it's not even easier for China to project force in the region through securing a military foothold or a dual-use facility in the Pacific, something that both countries will no doubt redouble their efforts on in the wake of this flotilla movement.